this type of peeling, you want to be a lot slower, a lot more deliberate, but you've got to show a finer degree of finesse than you normally would. Normally what you're seeing here is the final layer being taken off. When you're on this layer here and the one above it, you basically work down each layer. When you get to this layer, you want to be a little less careful, but not too blasé about it. You just basically want to take it off like this. And then you've got this white sappy layering. It's where you've got to be more careful, more deliberate, and less ham-fisted about things. I mean, this is, as far as I'm aware, this is the inner bark. Then you've got like the cambium layer, which is like the last chunk of the bark before you get to the actual sapwood, which is what we're taking it down to here. You'll find though, when you come to these knots, it's inevitable that your work will probably suffer unless you've got a specialised fine, super fine tool, which I think most people, even for this level of finesse, probably aren't too bothered about. When you're coming down like this, you just want to do it gently. You don't want to go too deep or you'll gouge a big chunk out. You don't want to go too shallow either. And let's see if I can get this one. I'm not very good at when it comes to the knots though. I normally do cause a bit of scarring like there. That's minor. I wouldn't worry about that too much. And then just start taking the white off. One of these that's sharp is essential, but the one that my friend lent me is razor sharp, and it's really held its edge well, even packing into some of the really thick bark, much thicker than this inner bark here. You want to keep in mind though, even on the straightest of logs, when you come to things like knots, there will be a slight depression before it flattens out again. So you've got to keep that in mind when you're working with draw knife. Because if you forget, you'll just either miss or go too deep. I don't even know if this is showing up too well on the camera because it's quite bright today, and it's not always easy to see it on the camera what I'm doing, even though I have zoomed it in. It's got a pretty good lens. When you come to this part here, you might want to attempt to grab it and just pull it. You can do that, but it'll get a lot of crap on you, a lot of sticky mess get on everything. So what I do is I just take it in a bit, and that'll just get rid of a big chunk of the fine onion skin layer that you've been taking off carefully. You can reverse the draw knife and go back on yourself if you wish. That's not as easy to do usually, going uphill here. So you can try and get the uphill section of the knot. But notice I can't really go too far because the very design of the draw knife prevents that. Like I say, if you've got a specialised tool or maybe a Stanley knife even, I don't know, or something, you could go under. I think you can get like handheld semicircular cutting devices that might work, I'm not sure. I have seen them in antique store, but I'm not sure if their purpose is suitable. So that's just a bit about peeling a log, fine crafting, or finely peeling a log. I don't know what the correct term for this is. There's peeling a log, which is what this is, but I'm just showing, compared to my last video you might have seen, I was just rapidly ripping the bark off, not really caring about taking chunks out of the sapwood or not. And this one, because it's the ridge log, this thing is huge. It's going to be the main support for the actual log cabin. I want this baby to look the part. Hence the video which I'm showing you now. And as with everything outdoorsy, you typically don't learn this in a class. You don't typically learn this sort of thing in a classroom. You learn it yourself by trial and error. This is just a little addition to what I was talking about. You can peel it like this finely and it'll show up nice and fine and it'll develop. But another reason you want to take off the white outer layer of the sapwood, or whatever you want to call it, the last piece of the bark. The other reason you want to take this off, I'll show you why you might want to take this layer off. Because some people do leave it in. They leave the bark on completely, some folk. The reason I take the white bark, that white section off as I just showed you, it'll actually turn into this. If you leave it for like a week, that white layer will actually turn to this shade, and it'll actually harden and it'll develop a thicker section that you have to try and peel later if you wish to peel it. And another reason I don't like it is if you actually run your finger along that without a glove on, you stand a good risk of getting 1,000 splinters into your finger. Yeah, that's right, you can actually get splinters off a semi-peeled log if it's not taken down to the final layer of sapwood. I just ran my hand along this lightly, didn't even press hard, and I got about, must have been hundreds and hundreds of splinters, fine tiny splinters in my hand. And so that's another reason why I don't like to leave. When I peeled logs before, they were dead logs. These are live logs, and live logs do funny things. Another reason you might want to peel it is when it rains, the water, when it runs off, leaves this horrible stain thing behind. And that was directly caused because I didn't take down this white, now brown layer of the bark. And that's what it did. That was another little trick it taught me. So at a later stage, in the weeks to come, I'll probably go over these logs again and take down most of the bark layer. So that's just a little addition to the video. I'll bring you right back into the video now with me finishing it up. So you can take a big chunk out and try going down to the sapwood. You can do it that way as well, but there's more of a tendency to rip off a few layers of the sapwood, which isn't a big problem because it's normally not too much that you rip. It's when you go really deep and gouge out a big chunk, it just spoils it. So that's just me peeling the log to a finer standard than normal. Hope you enjoyed it. As always folks, stay tuned. The adventure continues.